Hey crafty people, it's Tasha. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm joining in the fun to celebrate the brand new Ethereal Meadows Collection from Wow Embossing Powder. Stay tuned for details on how you can win the giveaway. So the supplies I'll be using for today's card are an old small die of the month set from Spellbinders, Wisteria Wonder and Bluebell Mist from the new collection, and then I've also done some die cutting from a leftover swatch that I had for Aurora Borealis, which is from the Ethereal Meadows Collection released last year. I've done all of my die cutting in advance, and then I've also got some snap and slides for an interactive element, blue ink spray, a blue Lindy's Magical Powder, and an A2 panel of Distress watercolour cardstock. So let's jump straight in with the background. I already have my glass mat on my desk, but I'm also bringing in this very well loved DIY splat box to protect everything on my desk from that ink spray. I'm giving my spray a couple of pumps to get some colour down on my panel, and then to help that colour spread a little bit more, I'm spritzing some clean, clear water, and you can see how much that ink then moves and spreads. For some added contrast and a shimmery accent, I'm tapping some of this pigment powder over the panel, then giving it another quick spritz of water. Now, I've got some folded up paper towel here that I'm just using to sop up some of that excess liquid, and as a side note, how beautiful does that look on the towel? Now I'm using our dual speed heat tool on setting 1 to help speed up that drying time. My panel is pretty warped from all that moisture, so by heating it from the front and back, I can get it back to being really quite nice and flat too. Once it's mostly dry, I'm adding one last spritz of the ink spray to give me some much darker blobs, and then I'll set it aside in my splat box to fully dry. Okay, let's work on the umbrella. There's 2 layers, a solid piece and then this detail piece that's got kind of several stripes. Now I cut that from Wow cardstock covered in double-sided adhesive. I'm going for a kind of tone-on-tone look with the 2 embossing sparkles from the new collection. I'm going to alternate them to give that striped effect. I'm starting with Bluebell Mist, placing some scrap paper underneath my die cut and peeling back the backing from the sections that I want covered in this, and then pouring that embossing all over. Then I can pick up my die cut and funnel that leftover powder back into the jar. Unfortunately, I had a little bit of an accident when bringing that jar forward, and I know I'm not the only one who's done this before, so who else here feels my pain in that moment? Ugh. So before I peel off the rest of the backing, I'm actually going to brush away that powder that has stayed kind of stuck onto that plasticky paper. But to keep that static out of my powder, I'm not actually putting this back into the jar. I'm just going to sweep it off and dump that in the bin. And I'm covering the last 2 strips with Wisteria Wonder, and once my heat tool is nice and hot, I'm bringing it to the embossing to fully heat set. Now that bottom layer of the umbrella has the little spokes at the ends, and there's also a small piece that's going to sit on the top of the umbrella. So I've got them both attached to some low-tack tape so that I can colour them in with our embossing ink pen and then polished silver embossing powder. Again, heat setting that. Now, I don't want any white to show through from that bottom layer, so to completely cover myself and that white, I'm just colouring it all in with a purple alcohol marker. Then I can glue the 3 pieces together, with that small circle piece being the last to go on once the 2 big pieces are adhered down. Now let's set that aside and work on the other die cuts. So the set comes with a pair of legs, skirt and shoes that lets this piece move, then another set of trousers and shoes which stay still. Now, I wanted to mix it up though and have two women kissing under my purple umbrella, and I want to give both of my women skirts. So I have some skirts that I cut from coloured cardstock, and I'm going to give them a little more dimension with some simple shading. Now, I've also cut two sets of the legs and shoes, but as I want one of my women to be facing the opposite way, I'm just flipping one set of each and then colouring all of these into. So whilst I'm getting on with that, now seems like a good time to talk about today's giveaways, because we have both this video hop and a blog hop happening today, giving you two chances to win the full Ethereal Meadows collection. To win, all you need to do is make sure you're subscribed to the channel, like this video and leave a comment. And you can head over to the WoW channel to see the video that I made for there as well. Subscribe and leave a comment letting us know where you're watching from and which of those 4 powders you are most excited about. You can hop through the other designers in the hop, watching their fabulous videos, subscribing and leaving comments on each one for additional entries. WoW are going to randomly select a winner after 6 PM on Monday from all of the comments left, and then let the lucky winner know in a reply to their comment. So make sure to check back to see if you are the lucky one. All of the details plus the links to the other designers in today's hop will all be below in the description box, along with the link over to join the blog hop too. Now I'm assembling my ladies, along with the mechanism that's going to allow one of them to move. There is a way that this is intended to be made, but I'm kind of going off to make it my own way because I really wanted to use one of the snap and slide mechanisms to make sure that it's all really secure. I'm starting by adhering half of the mechanism to the top of my skirt with a sticky spot, then trimming off that kind of hoop bit from the top of my legs so that I can just adhere these into place underneath. Now I only want movement in one of the ladies, so I can just adhere the legs onto the second skirt. I want to click the two halves of the mechanism together, and I need to fashion something that's going to attach to my card without stopping the skirt from moving. So I'm using a small hole puncher on some scrap cardstock, sliding this between the two pieces before I snap them together. All you need to do is just line them up, press until you hear the click. We need to create the ground for our ladies to be on. So I've trimmed a panel of vellum that's going to go across the bottom of my card panel, and I'm just using one of the hardline die cuts from the same die set to ground my loving couple. I'm also adding the 2 lines of sentiment underneath. Having these here also pulls kind of double duty because when I assemble the card, I can add my glue behind them to adhere this vellum to the background panel with no visible glue. I want to make sure that both ladies are positioned right under my umbrella and give room for the swinging mechanism. So I'm using some layers of foam adhesive. For the stationary lady, I can just add her directly onto the back of the umbrella, but for the other one, I need to make sure that she's got some free movement. So the only piece that gets adhered is that cardstock tab that I made. It's really helpful in creating the mechanism, but I don't want to have it seen, so I'm cutting it down as much as possible before adding it to the umbrella with more foam tape. Anywhere that I feel like I need a little extra space than just that single layer of foam tape, I'm just adding an extra layer or 2 of cardstock on top of the foam. It's just going to give us just a tiny little bit more thickness. Then I always keep checking the movement at every step so I don't get any nasty surprises by, finding out it doesn't work after I've finished the card. All that's left to do then is assembling it all. So I'm gluing the vellum piece onto the background, avoiding any visible glue thanks to those 3 Aurora Borealis embossed strips. Then I'm adding my loved up couple under their umbrella. To embellish, I'm adding some deep blue gems in 3 clusters across the design. And that's my card finished. I really hope that you like it. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment hopping through the other designers to give you the most chances to win. Then head over to our blog hop to see additional inspiration and enter there to give you even more chances to win this beautiful collection. Thank you for spending this time with me today, and I hope to see you back here soon. Have a lovely, happy, safe, and wonderful week. Stay crafty. Bye.